Well, I mean, we're here to discuss the world of quantum imaging. A little bit different than what people might think it might consist of, but overwhelming at the same time, and incredible amounts of practical application that can be used for the right people, of course, but we are in a new area, a revolutionary area of the world now, where we
Right.
are peeking behind the curtain. The work that Stephen is doing with his associates at Hidden World is absolutely incredible. It is the new thing on the horizon that people should be looking to, because we are now starting to see the unseen. And that's what's incredible about this type of technology. It opens our eyes to a universe of things that we've never thought existed in the world around us. So that's what makes it so fantastic, really, for me. And I was introduced to it maybe a couple of years ago, and it's quite overwhelming when you start to realize what this actually does consist of and how it all fits in to our understanding of the reality around us, Alexei. So, and we
Yep.
are ready. We are ready wherever you are, my friend.
Oh,
To
we've already started in my mind. I mean,
all right.
that was the perfect intro into quantum imaging, I
Yeah.
think. I have heard about it, I believe, when it first came out, but I didn't know anything about it. I recently saw some of the photos from Steve Mera that you were sharing on your show, and well, that sparked my interest quite a bit again. And now I'm here with you today. Um, so, Stephen, you work with what is it, hiddenworlds.co, and you guys have been developing this for about 5 years now, right? Something to that nature, or
Actually, I've been at this about 12 years now.
I
Uh,
apologize. Yeah, I'm
yeah,
sorry.
yeah, no. But here in the last few years, Hidden World has, uh, when Hollywood came calling, we went ahead and pushed it on into an LLC due to the Warner Brothers and all those contracts that were going on. We weren't quite ready to push it into an LLC yet. We were getting there, but it was one of those things where it just kind of helped push me over the edge to just get it done, and so that's why you're seeing the existence of the LLC versus my experience going back 12 years.
Right. So can you talk about that a little bit further? So you were working with this technology, but how does that relate to Warner Brothers there?
Well, they got in touch with me and did some blind test on me, and I hit every target they already knew was there, and somehow it just exploded. I can't explain it. I didn't go looking for Hollywood. Uh, they had
Gotcha.
actually found me through our work with the Department of Defense. It's a long story, but my history goes back to the stars and the Pentagon and all. And somehow one of those guys found out about our work on the Tic Tac, and we did a lot of heavy lifting work on that craft specifically. And one of the guys that works on the Raytheon pods knew about me, and they had came calling on him and said, "Man, you need to get a hold of this guy in Texas." And that's how that whole Warner Brothers thing happened.
You know, I had a whole bunch of questions, or I had questions already lined up, and you're just adding more questions to those questions.
It's a
Oh,
rabbit hole.
It
I'm
is.
going to default to Steve a lot. He's my
I can
buffer.
I can maybe answer some of these. Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So in short, what were you doing with the I don't know how much you can get into the Tic Tac work you were doing, but what were you doing with the Tic Tac?
Oh, everything. We were Steve. I'm going to have to
Yeah,
default to
I,
you.
I am assuming I am assuming at this level
Yeah.
that when we're talking, because there is still some sensitive areas around this. It's still debatable as to, as far as I'm concerned, the origin of the Tic Tac. Though that the 50% of the people I've talked to at top levels have said it's a foreign object to the United States, and recognised and categorised under the heading of UAP. There is equally a 50% of people that are saying that it is secret American technology, that has been test flown under certain programs in association to the false skirmishers situation. Now, this is not something new. This happened back when we talk about the F-117A Nighthawk stealth fighter. We first saw this enter our television screens, I believe it was round about 1996, maybe. I think it was during the Gulf War anyway. And we saw this on television for the very first time coming from America. And everybody said, what the hell is that? We've never seen anything like it. But what people didn't realize is that it was manufactured first unplanned in 1972, manufactured in 1973 and test flown through to 74. That stealth fighter was pitted against starfighter pilots. Now, the starfighter aircraft were an incredible aircraft. In fact, it was superior in speed, but not in agility, and certainly not in radar, not being detected. So they went out on a normal routine, these starfighter pilots, and suddenly in front of them are stealth fighters. Now, they were white in colour back then, not black. And they were reporting them as, what the hell is this? Is it foreign adversary? It's a UFO? They couldn't understand, and nor could they get sort of decent weapon locks on these things. There was radar problems and all sorts of stuff. That's the same thing what some people are telling me is the same sort of operation that may have taken place regarding the USS Nimitz and Roosevelt, because at the timing is very interesting when it took place, the initial tic-tac encounters was at a time when they've just been newly fitted with specialized equipment across the whole fleet to detect things which are not capable to be picked up on radar or too fast to track. And this was a new weapons system which was employed and put out, and that day was perfectly tested by the Tic Tac, funny enough. So the coincidence is very, very timing is very, very unusual. And this might lend hand to some people's thinking who I've talked to say it could be Raytheon or Raytheon stuff. It could be Lockheed. It could be something like that. I mean, all we've got to do is go back in time and look at, Ben Rich, who was at the head of Lockheed. I mean, great guy, Ben Rich, could never keep his mouth shut. That was the problem with Ben. Every time he did a little talk, he had to throw something in there. Things like, George Lucas would be envious as to what we've got now. And comments like, we've now got the technology to take ET home. And all sorts of wonderful things. He kept doing it. He kept getting in trouble for it, but he couldn't help himself. And I do believe him. I believe Ben was absolutely telling the truth. So, yes, I do believe there are some incredible technologies out there that we might have reached already the capabilities of wrapping around a space bubble, in a sense of speaking, around crafts, which do not have inertia. And they don't even need to be manned, to be honest with you. We have the technologies now to think quicker than the human brain. It was 1983 when a rat brain flew an air fighter, believe it or not, and that was in 83. So with technologies we've got now, it would not surprise me if it was just a skirmish that was put together. They weren't told to fire on these things. Sometimes there wasn't even taking weapons up there. And then lo and behold, within a couple of hours, a helicopter lands on the deck of the Nimitz and collects all the materials, all the radar data. And they didn't tell people not to talk about it, not like the old days when a real phenomenon is on presence. Then you really do warn people. You don't talk about what you're seeing here. No, just left it. They're not bothered about what people said. Maybe they wanted to say it's UFO because it takes the blame away from them. For me, I don't know. I'm cut down the middle. Very difficult now. At difficult times regarding technology as to what is ours, what is theirs. But I'm assuming that we're not just looking at the Tic Tac's capabilities, but through quantum imaging, which applied, you're not only looking at the Tic Tac, but you're also looking at the adverse effects, atmospheric effects around the Tic Tac, which might give some information, critical information about its power source, its energies, those sorts of very important things, which are very important to certain people within the Pentagon, as you can imagine. So this is probably why there was so much sensitivity around this at the time, because it was a big question. Is it foreign adversaries or something else? There are people in the know within the Pentagon, probably, and there are people that aren't in the know. And sometimes the work comes from those people that aren't in the know, and therefore to them it's highly sensitive. To others, it might be, yes, we already knew that.
Well, that's really interesting because I get what you're getting at with the Tic Tac. So you're able to see traces in different, you could say layers, or I'm not sure if dimensions is the right word, but let's just say layers of the photo that hinted towards some type of propulsion method or some type of effect it was creating. And I could see that being
Yes,
a warp field, maybe compressed in front, expanded behind, as opposed to like the direction of travel, something
exactly.
of that nature. And
Yes, exactly, Alexa, because there will be people out there that might be able to look at that data and say, we recognize that because we've seen that in our stuff, or adversary stuff from other countries, or even UAP stuff. They might be able to say that, look at that and say, that matches this. So it gives us some clue as to who or what it belongs to.
well, and potentially also you could make a real-time tracking system because you're doing this with photos, but I can assume you can potentially do this with video as well, maybe with some type of slight delay to where and also maybe there's nothing physically there, but you're able to track something in a different layer. So it's almost like creating radar that works through different layers.
It
Um,
is like it's like looking between. I mean, imagine an image that you're looking at of reality. But if you were to take a sidestep from reality and look at the side, you would see that what you experience in the world is made up of layers to make that image
yep.
of what we see in reality. Well, what these guys are doing, what they specialize at, as is looking not only at the different layers, but between the layers. Sometimes between the layers where photons aren't even hitting. It doesn't necessarily mean if photonic light is not, it's not generating light source for us to see, doesn't mean it's not there. Just means that we're not, the human eye is not seeing it. And this is what this incredible technology is doing now. It's revealing things around us in our reality that we were completely unaware of.
Well, I know with astronomy, when you're doing spectral analysis, you have absorption lines and you also have emission lines. And so, Mike, and you're also working with each individual pixel, right? And you're getting the photon counts, and then you're doing your spectral analysis. That I was really curious when it comes to quantum imaging. Does the photo need to be digital? Does it need to have been taken with a CCD?
No, not at all. He was only, was it only last month we were looking at the 1942 flyover of UAPs over the Washington State buildings, wasn't it, Stephen? I mean, hey, we're going
Yeah.
back some time there.
Yeah, yeah. Alexei, let me tell you when usually on things like this, I'll have one of my IP or my patent attorney on the phone kicking me in the side. I, I'm Ben Rich. You get me going, and uh, I'm not from the cloak and dagger world. I'm acclimating to it. Steve is much more versed in this, so if you hear me default to him, it's because he's like my IP attorney, jabbing me in the side to shut up. Uh, but it is a problem with ones like us. I've talked with photonic experts all over the world, scientists and all. I'm not a PhD. I'm not credentialed. Many times people think I'm a doctor. I'm not. Uh, but we talk and we get into a lot of trouble. We really do because we talk too much. And one got in real bad trouble with DARPA that I was working with. So again, Alexei, I'm not dodging you. It's just if I'm not careful, I'm going to get you in trouble, and you'll get a knock on your door. So,
Well, I don't know if you can see that poster on the wall. That's actually from a USPTO National Trademark Expo.
oh,
Um,
okay, okay,
Oh,
cool.
being held at the Smithsonian. So I'm very familiar with the patent process. Let me just put it
uh,
that way, like patents and trademarks, all that kind of stuff. It sounds like you have your LLC together, but not quite yet the trademarks involved.
no, it has to do with Born Secret, Alexei. To just be blunt with you, the Invention Secrecy Act.
Yep.
Uh, what we do
Okay.
is dangerous. So, to be blunt. So, having said that, what Steve said about the Tic Tac and Ben Rich and the Stealth Fighter all plays into this, and so I didn't mean to mm, shun you on the Tic Tac, but it's gnarly. It's a can of worms. It's like Steve said, with quantum imaging, none of that matters. The camera doesn't matter. The medium doesn't matter. The photons don't matter. Nothing matters. Absolutely nothing. You have to throw out all classical optics out the window. Uh, Take a cardboard box, stick a pinhole in it, put an old 1800s tintype in there, and just take the old timey photograph of anything you want, as long as you can get it on a computer where I can do my thing, then it's on from there. And to go back to your Tic Tac to answer you, what Steve said is that one of the beautiful things about quantum imaging is it doesn't care what you think is there or what I think or what Ross Coulthart said. He had a source that said it's ours. Um, it doesn't care what anybody thinks, their worldview. It's going to tell you exactly what's there. And what we found is it's got a centralized dynamo. It had an engine, and that engine was morphing and somehow was interacting with its field. There was a traveling, um, I hate to say portal. I don't want people to run away with this, but we did the video. We have time domain, and we caught it literally puckering up, much like Starship Troopers. You know that movie where those bugs would pucker up
Yep.
and
And then they
shoot?
shoot out the
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it did that. It puckered up into a perfect circle and then hit the Raytheon pod with a EMP pulse. It was an attack. That's when the whole, we call it a fan out, where the IR sensors get saturated, oversaturated,
Right.
and if
You
it
can
was
imagine that
Lockheed,
incredible, isn't it? Incredible
yeah.
technology.
I mean, we watched the whole thing. It was like watching Starship Troopers, and Mike Boyd is our chief scientist, and he was one of the early inventors of this stuff with all the IR sensors and all there in California. He's got patents around the world, and he knew it right off the bat that it was an EMP attack. I didn't. I just thought it was some kind of glitch. But then once we got into the thick of it and saw the time domain data, it was really shocking. It was an attack. And then later it came out some of the pilots had gotten sick. And so that was when I was dealing with To the Stars and the military, and my patent attorney there in Houston was really, really nervous about the military. And so the whole Born Secret thing came in, and we just had to press the pause on that once we got that deep into it. But I
Mm.
can tell you, I can confirm with Steve that what he said about quantum imaging is it's able to see beyond the obvious and get into those layers. And unless Lockheed Martin has figured out how to break into space-time metrics and have things coming in and out, then to me it was unexplained, or either some kind of hybrid thing going on where there was collusion. If Uncle Sam has some kind of working agreement with them, like what I've had to study in the past couple of years. I knew nothing about this subject. I was just a farmer on a tractor trying to grow a better crop. So the last couple of years, I've had to take a crash course, and Steve has been instrumental in bringing me up to date on this crazy space we're in. So,
What
Yeah.
kind of just I know this is a side topic. What kind of farm were you working on?
Our farm was a classic, cattle, cotton, maize, all that kind of stuff, and we converted it over to turf grass, St. Augustine lawn grass for the Houston market, is where I
Okay.
started doing the crop aerial photography, and that's how this all started, was through that crop aerial photography.
Very
So,
cool. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but I'm currently so I do concept to market, and I help people bring ideas to market. And
huh?
one of the people I'm working with now basically has the world's biggest wild boar farm, and I recently built their food processing facility. So I've been helping
Wow,
now train the employees
excellent.
to use the facility. So I'm also on a farm. I know how farm life
Oh,
is.
cool. Well,
Yeah.
good deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
But um, so you're kind of reminding me of like Thomas Townsend Brown, potentially John Searle, advanced hidden gravitational tech that's potentially has been worked on for quite some time since the early 1900s. Same with like when you're talking about like an EM pulse directed, potentially the very first person to be working on that would be like Tesla or something of that nature with the
Right,
death ray.
right, right.
Um, so it's not, in my opinion, it's not out of reason to think that humans have this type of technology, especially when you start to consider artificial intelligence and like drone swarms.
Mhm.
Um, all of that technology combined, potentially we put
Yes,
electrogravitics on a drone. We gave it AI. It can now swarm with other
exactly.
drones.
Yep.
I'm
Right,
just spitballing.
right.
Humans have the ability to create amazing technology right now.
Oh yes. I mean, we're in
Yeah.
the 21st century, and the problem is that with that, Alexei, is that we've been stunted in regarding the belief of where we lie in regarding technology. I mean, for crying out loud, I mean, it's still taking 8.5 hours to fly from the UK to the US. I mean, the same thing was happening in the 90s and the 80s and the 70s. What happens regarding the technological curve, we increase so high, but take an example, aviation industry, it just plateaus off and everything else went black. I mean,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous. We know in 1977 that we had rockets that could fly almost at 9,000 miles per hour. They flew so fast that it caused a double back from going up so high and fast that it caused a vacuum from space to come back down called a double blast. It blew over blew over cattle and took off roofs and all sorts of things. It was unexpected
Wow.
for people to see that, but we have been kept in the dark in regarding the technologies that we humanly possess. The general public won't know that. They just keep us, where we need to be. At some point, though, we might see or might start to see technologies, but we inadvertently will call them UFOs or UAP or something else. We just don't know. I think for anybody any country that might have a leading technologies, maybe China, maybe Russia, maybe the US, and the UK maybe have some part in that, is the concern of not only the question as to what this object is and who's it belong to, but also do they have the same technologies as we have now? Because it's a bit of a poker game that goes on between these countries all the time. Nobody wants to show the hand, as you can imagine, because the fear of, well, if I show you my hand, you know that I've got, and therefore you copy it, and so on and so forth. So this has been going on for quite some time. It's still at this stage now. But the problem is we've reached a point in time now that we've crossed over into the area of UAP and our advanced technologies are getting mixed in the same bag. It's getting to the point where it's almost impossible to identify the difference. The only way I can do it as a researcher, and I've stated this before, is I see the phenomenon be able to materialize and dematerialize, even if you seem to be physical or semi-physical or transparent or not. The fact that it can also merge, it can also have quad medium capabilities, not transmedium, as many people talk about, quad medium capabilities of going through solid materials like into the ground, into volcanoes, into the land, into cliffs, and also, just as the phenomena can pass through your wall and pass through the ceilings and so on and so forth, so can the craft because the craft is part of the phenomena. I see that conscious connection, the observer effect with them, and the effects on the human mind, the limitations of cognitive abilities that stops you in your tracks from taking a photograph or shouting out help or doing something which they adversely wouldn't like. That to me represents the phenomenon, not some technology that the US government, for an example, might have. But it's very difficult to know that at a glance of an object that might be flying over your head one particular night in a rural location. You wouldn't know. It could simply be something that the technologies that we have. Sure. And I'm sure that there were other companies out there that have looked into, and all you got to do is do a search on Google and search engines to realize that a lot of people are talking about quantum imaging and quantum effects. It applies into the paranormal aspects, quantum tunneling, and into the airport phenomenon, and all sorts of different things. We are, no matter what is going to happen, be forced into the quantum realm. We are heading that way because we're realizing we've never had an explanation for some of the phenomena until the quantum realm comes along. And then you can take this brick, which, airport phenomena is quantum tunneling. Fantastic. It fits. And now we're starting to learn all these things. Now, the problem with that is that because of the applications involved with this incredible technology, it can be used for some very good stuff, for diagnosing people, for instance, for finding materials or semi-precious materials and minerals, metals underground, energy, certain traces of energy. It can be utilized in astrophysics for identifying phenomena out in the heavens and the universe. But it can also be applied to the research of detonation of devices, energy weapons. You can imagine the whole criteria there is going to be like any government at this moment in time in the 21st century is not will this benefit mankind? It's how the hell are we going to weaponize it? That's the problem we live in at the moment. And I think that's what Stephen's getting at.
Right. Yeah, they always want to kill something.
No. Well, so that I understand that you really necessarily can't go too much into the details because it's somewhat in quotes classified is what I'm picking up so far. So I used to do when I first started with my company, I applied for several patents. One of them I called the satellite jumper. It would jump from satellite to satellite in space, just downloading all the data and then disrupting the satellite and then jump to the next one. I never saw that again.
Right.
That does happen, Alexei. There's a history of that. And I was told by some of the leading specialists in the world, you got something very special. The worst thing to do is to patent it. Of course, the descriptive information in a patent that you've got to tell him everything, how it works and all that sort of thing. They can be easily lost. I mean, and some people have stated, look, if it's something revolutionary, it has to go out free. We're away from the patent, away from the patents and stuff, because
that's where a lot
that's
of
the
people think that
control.
this technology is being hidden by the oil companies, right? Say free energy technology becomes available to everyone. Now all of a sudden our infrastructure that we've been developing for hundreds of years, what happens to those people in that system? So that's totally understandable. I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm saying I understand it.
We're locked in the
Um,
system, unfortunately. Their system,
right.
unfortunately.
Yeah. But back to the quantum imaging. So when you were talking about quad medium capabilities as far as being able, to go through solid objects. So
Yeah.
now when you're doing this quantum imaging effect on these photos, are there layers where the actual physical object doesn't exist?
The physical aspect of the object. Okay, Stephen.
Um, well, Steve,
Well, I would say,
how far can I go into this?
well, I know. Let
Is
me
this one of those
run,
questions I shouldn't ask,
yeah.
sir?
Let me run this by you, okay? What do you consider physical? Because nothing ever is. It's only
Well, I mean,
physical one
so when we
plane of
take a
existence.
photo, clearly the mouse is still there, and some of the quantum images you shared, I believe the trees are still in the background. So, do you
Yes.
get to layers where the trees disappear, or is that in every single layer, and you're just simply putting the trees on so we have some type of reference to compare
Okay,
the original
so
photo to?
what we tend to see is this baseline of information. It's the E8 lattice. You can do some checking into that regarding the
Yep,
crystalline
I've already had
construct.
requests to make an E8 lattice video since we last spoke.
Fantastic, brilliant, very
Yeah.
good. People need to understand that this construct of the world we see is made up of this, and how the quantum imaging sees things in relation to the interaction within the E8 lattice around us, which wouldn't normally see. So if I was to take a photograph, which I have done, and you might see trees in there, and it's just a blue sky, there's your baseline information. We know that exists there within the image. That's called classical photography. It's classical optics. However, if we turn it to the side and break that image down, we see the things which we're not supposed to see, in a sense of speaking, which we wouldn't normally see. And that is because of the laying process and the things that we're able to see, the layers and in between, which reveals and brings out data, quantum data out the image, which we would not normally see, thus adding all the layers and bringing them into one. It's like bringing everything from the back forward into the front line
Right.
with
My mind,
everything
I don't think
else.
it's going to figure it out during this episode. But what I'm getting right now is okay, you've got the electromagnetic spectrum and it sends out perpendicular waves. So now when you turn it 90 degrees, you're looking at the magnetic field, not the photonic field. And now you're, no, I'm trying to like break. I know I'm not right, or I might be close, but I'm not right.
Oh,
Um,
do you see Steve's his tiles there on the side of his wall, those hexagonal tiles?
yes.
Uh, um, I don't mean to generalize this, but you have to remember you're talking to someone that's been in the can you cuss on here or no?
Sure. We're an adult audience.
Have you heard the Thousand Yard Stare? That war movie. They can tell you haven't been in the shit if you don't have the Thousand Yard Stare.
Right.
So I've got 12 years in this, and it's to be honest, it's very sobering, Alexei. I have cried at my desk many times. Sometimes I have to walk away from it. It's absolutely it's catastrophic disclosure. It's complete, total ontological shock, and it's much like those tiles on his wall. It's almost as if nothing matters. And I hate to keep saying that, but even the electromagnetic spectrum doesn't matter. It's this honeycomb, this wasp nest, this like a sentient yellow slime mold that it's modular, it's undulating, it's moving, and it's embedded and smeared with these well, Steve, you Steve
Well,
calls
it's
them
yeah. I mean, let me give
calls
you an
them
analogy.
gooblers.
Yeah, Googlers, I've come up with a name, but let me give you an analogy. To see a UFO in our reality, to go outside and look at our reality, and it offers up a UFO that flies over the head, and we can see it, is equal to a fly landing on your television screen. In a sense of speaking, the reality that you see is the television screen. The UFO is the flies just landed on it. We don't realize is that people have been focused so much on the UFO and trying to work out and everything that they didn't realize that it's everything that surrounds it, its reality and everything is all part and parcel of it. This is the indigestible truth of this. It's very, very difficult, and I can understand why
Would,
people can
would,
walk
couldn't the
away
same
from
be
this.
true for couldn't the same be true for every bit of physical matter that we are seeing though as well? That it's also stems from the layering of within the fifth dimension in quotes, like what you're saying. Um
Yeah,
and
I
that
mean,
the flat
everything, yes, everything that anything that we can perceive. I mean, the equipment that we use to perceive is a limited version of what we perceive. The equipment's just trying to stretch our limitations. We never realize, though, that it goes far beyond that, far,
well
far
that's
beyond.
where I to go along that with real quick, I think it's hilarious that people think we've evolved to detect every single type of wave or vibration that exists when all of our five major senses come from two physical bodies within the universe.
That's true. Yes, I
Like
know.
sound, touch, taste, and smell from
Yeah.
the earth, vision from the sun. I say we have our sense of space-time as in our dimensional layer from the greater structure, the greatest orbit, our greatest inertial reference frame gives us our dimensional
Mm,
potentials, like one time the speed of light outward, one time the speed of light inward. But again, that's just our relative inertial reference frame
yeah.
giving us our position of time.
Well, what we
But
what
so when
we
you make
what we
that quick,
found, Alexei, which is probably the most important thing here, is that through this process, and it might have been purely identified by accident, to be honest with you, by going through the layers, you reach a point when you think, what are those things I can see within the image? And those initially, you would say, look like to be faces. Now, it's interesting that the human brain wants to automatically, without any shadow of a doubt, if to put one thing in front of your eyes, which your brain will identify the most easiest, is a face. And not only a face, but to recognize emotions from faces, anguish, upset, happiness, distortions, comical stuff as well. Your brain will naturally look for those things. And we do see those as a baseline. When I say baseline, it doesn't matter if I give you a photograph from outer space or if I gave you a photograph from underwater or taken in a vacuum. It doesn't matter. There is a baseline of what we refer to, as Stephen said, is cranial maxillofacial amalgamates. In layman terms, they're faces. Now you can look at them for years. I mean, anybody who specializes in visual perception, and I've worked within that field, I can say initially one or two, you say, that's an interesting form of pareidolia, like looking at shapes in the clouds. But how often do you see shapes in the clouds? Now, there are some times of people have certain perceptual illnesses that causes them to recognize faces and things in the clouds regularly.
Mhm.
However, if you were to put that to an audience and they say, hang on, I can see the same thing. You've not even given me any prompts. And another one, and another one, and you multiply them by multiple thousands over a longer period of time, the chances of any form of pareidolia go straight out the window. And you are left with a problem identifying the baseline. The baseline is that it doesn't matter what photograph, even if it's a 10-second video, whatever, they are there, always there. But
Always.
it doesn't matter if you take a microsecond, you take 10 photographs within a second, there will be differences. It's not the same each photo. There is differences. So there's obviously some form of movement of things or interaction taking place. What starts to get very interesting is that when we get to a point when we recognize that the cranial maxillofacial amalgamates start to become excited and stimulated by the events they are seemingly encountering or witnessing around them, such as paranormal experiments, ufological paranormal accounts. When we start just to look into this area, even though that there's 100 things that this technology is fantastic at doing, just looking at this area, we're finding something which is interactive as well and around us all the time. And Trey Hudson had a wonderful quote, didn't he, Stephen? He said, not only are we not alone, we've never been alone. And I get that. And I get it
Yeah.
when people think they get the feeling they're being watched. I get it because they are around. But they might not focus on you unless you do something that excites them or that interests them. And then they'll focus on you. And that data within the quantum imaging, you can see how they become excited and stimulated to the actions taking place in regarding these experiments and research and investigations into the realm of anomalous phenomena. That's what's fascinating. What are those things? Clearly intelligent, but we don't know what the source is. We can only go and look at these things and say, well, it looks like some of them look like persecuted souls. You could say, well, they're just, is it consciousness itself? Billions of consciousnesses interacting with us on a regular, all the time. We haven't
Is
got
it
the answers.
potential timelines that are floating
Yeah,
around next to you?
we don't know. We haven't got the answers, but what we have got, rather than all these theories as to what it is, we've got hardline data that say it's real. There it is. You make your own mind up what you might want to think it might be, but the data cannot lie. The data is the data.
So the one piece of that I have gathered from this is that it's related to the E8 lattice.
Yes,
It's
yes. Alexei, if I could come on in with Steve and tell you, um, all that you posit is is real. It's Newtonian. It's Einstein. Um, classical physics, optics, all of that, you hold on to. You have to. There's a reason why our eyesight is restricted from seeing this. I saw a physicist say if we saw our true reality, we would all die. There's a reason why, and I see it every day on my screen. It's absolutely sobering. And so what Steve's trying to tell you is all of the Newtonian, Einstein, all of that, the speed of light, I don't know how else, it doesn't matter.
It
None
doesn't.
of it matters. Right, Steve?
It doesn't matter. Now
It
we realize
doesn't matter.
we realize very quickly in the realm
It
of
doesn't
parapsychology, don't we? When we get
matter.
paranormal photographs of black
Yeah.
voids, where the photons that's traveling at 670 million miles an hour aren't even hitting it, it's been absorbed by the phenomenon. It doesn't matter. None
Doesn't
of it
matter.
matters.
From as near to the Planck length as anyone can image out to the edge of the observable universe, the cosmic microwave background, including gamma ray light. We've done them all. It's
Yeah.
all the same. It's those tiles on that man's wall. It's a modular construct. And it's like looking in Texas, we get these yellow jackets and red wasps. I've been hit with them often. It reminds me of a big smeared out wasp nest. You've got, like Steve said, when we run this, some of them are frozen. I mean, literally like larvae in a wasp nest. They don't move. Matter of fact, I would ask Steve, are they possibly in the lens, the glass of the satellite camera?
Possibility, we might be
We're
looking at
just
even further layers here of static and interaction.
right.
That's one thing that's been coming to mind is the idea of a sky flat, because you've been trying to find a baseline. Are you familiar with the concept of a sky flat? Like,
Sky what?
it's called the sky flat, and you use them in astronomy. Basically, let's just say I'm trying to take a picture of the moon, but it's an extremely cloudy night, so I can't even see the moon because it's completely covered in clouds. You can
Right.
aim just to the left of the moon, take a photo, and then aim at the moon, and you subtract the photons. Essentially, essentially subtract the cloud data from the next
Something like
photo, and
that. Yeah.
um,
Yeah,
so you
yeah.
you could find a baseline of this quantum, because you're saying it's hard to find a baseline because there's this thing everywhere, potentially by subtracting some type of,
No, no. What me and Steve are trying to tell you is we found the baseline.
and it's
This
the
is
honeycomb with the faces and
It is. It's
this
everything.
is
Yeah.
this is our initial conditions. This is the baseline. It's like imagine endless LCD TV screens, okay, stacked in a, let's say, a block universe. I've had to start studying that. And inside is all this quantum foam, and inside you've got these modular cells like a yellow slime mold. If you've ever watched a time lapse of yellow slime mold, it sends out these nodes. There are nodes where this happens, and that could be where Blind Frog Ranch, Skinwalker Ranch, these thin areas, these hot areas. Steve's investigated some in different countries before, and they flow. They
Mm.
flow throughout the universe. You remember the old Willy Wonka movie from '72? The fat kid got sucked up into the
Sucked down the
pipe. He was
tube. Yeah.
drinking the chocolate. Do you
And
remember that, Alexei?
I think so, yeah.
That's what it looks like. You'll see all these tortured craniomaxillofacial amalgamates, like
squeezed
they're
and distortion. Yeah.
the
But a network.
distortions being pumped
Yeah.
like sausage stuffing
Yeah.
machine. It's crazy, and it's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's
And
You know what you're
everywhere.
reminding me of?
we also see
It
artifacts of geometric artifacts, the cubes,
Cubes.
hexagonals. We see these areas within that construct as well. What's interesting is that sometimes they are seemingly interactive. I mean, in regarding Trey Hudson's work with the Meadow Project, which is also utilizing the quantum imaging techniques of hidden world. is a discovery of a 26-foot size cube, which
Yep.
you would not know it's there, but it's there. And it's also very interesting, the results of what happens when some of his researchers go into that location. Something very profound happens. But these are things that could be all around us, Alexei, and we would not know. So when we have people talking about the regularity of anomalous phenomena, and when I say anomalous, I mean all sorts of different things. This could be just the mechanism in weak areas or in individuals which interact with it, not knowingly. What they could be the big answer to all the anomalous things that we wouldn't understand.
You know what's interesting?
Right.
The more developed our technologies get, the more questions always come out. And so now with
Right.
this new
Right.
quantum imaging, I mean, you're almost describing a network of. I'm just saying that this is how it's coming across to me. It's almost like I just looked it up. The dark matter web, in essence, it's like this.
Yes. Yes.
It's like a cell, the cardiothoracic system in the human body, right? It's this web of energy. And
Yes.
what I'm
Yes.
gathering is that you're seeing these faces essentially flowing along this web of energy. Um,
Yes,
is
Yes.
that
It's
accurate?
yes.
everywhere. Go
Okay, so that
outside
is,
in your backyard, Alexei. Dig up a spoon of dirt, take a picture of it, send it to me. They're there. We have gotten the smallest thing ever photographed. It
Was
was
it an
an
electron? Was
atom.
it an atom? It was an
Yeah, it
atom,
was an
wasn't it?
atom held in an optic trap. There was another one that was smaller, but it was more of a quantum shadow. I wanted something people could hold on to, and I sent it to Steve. It's the smallest thing ever photographed, and it was what was it, Steve? It was a atom of
It was an atom which it was held atom
rubium or
between we men.
something, a rubium
Yes.
atom. Yeah,
Yes.
and so I got that image and ran it, and Steve was a part of it. And there they are. There's his tiles,
Oh, they're
and
there.
and there's these
Yeah,
these.
everywhere.
It's a freak show. It's a horror show.
It is.
I
Yeah.
I don't know how else to tell you. That's our baseline, and that's why Uncle Sam already knows this, and why people go missing that get this knowledge.
Yeah.
It's a mess.
I mean,
well, that's what's,
in general,
Nothing matters.
it,
Nothing
it
matters.
doesn't.
The
None of it
UFO,
matters.
Bigfoot, Casper the Friendly Ghost, it's all the same.
Yeah.
From that atom, then we did the cosmic microwave background. Guess what? They're
It's
out there as big as the freaking universe. We're in some kind of trick. We're
yeah. It
this
is.
is
It
fake.
starts to get more and more profound as you go on. But if you can imagine, you can imagine that.
Then, as is my custom, I go to Steve and look for prosaics, for any kind of physics that will support what I'm seeing on my screen. I'll go to the internet. I've sat at the feet of optics gurus for 12 years, hundreds of PhDs. A lot of them took me under their wing. Whoa, you're doing this, you're doing that. Don't tell anybody we said so till you're peer reviewed and published. And then my patent attorney saying, we can't publish this. The DOD in Houston's going to whisk it off the table, and they're going to visit you at your farm with a whole fleet of black SUVs. I mean, that's the stuff I'm in. So we're having to go trade secret. Now, what we've
Yeah.
been doing is he said we can release A through M, never to Z, because that's dangerous. So what we've been doing is we've been releasing the workflow where you can do this on your own phone. There are parts of this that you can do yourself. Your
Yeah.
phone
There are. Yeah. There are
is a
parts.
quantum mechanical device. It operates on quantum mechanics. Uh,
Yeah.
they'll have specs for quantum noise ratio on the sensors and all, because quantum mechanics jack with the camera. Well, the reverse of that is the camera is capturing quantum mechanics.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you don't even need nothing. Just go to YouTube, look at a video, get your
Yeah.
room dark, look up close, you'll see them.
You
Go to
you
Google
get an
Earth.
eye. You do.
You
It's like
you'll
any,
see them.
it's like many specialist years ago. I mean, when it's the same for sound. When during the Second World War we brought people into some of these establishments to listen to the hush of radio noise coming over from Germany, and it took them some time to realize they can hear the whispers, but nobody could hear them when he first introduced.
Right.
There's a mechanism of the brain that can be tuned to the regularity of hearing things. It's the same for Stephen, seeing these things so often, you get an eye for it.
Uh-huh.
Absolutely. It's like hearing EVPs because of the work I've been involved in for so many years in instrumental transcommunication. I know what a real electronic voice phenomena sounds like. It has a certain tone and a twang, and I can pick them up because of long-term
Mhm.
studies. The thing is that for the layman's terms, people are going to be naive enough because the whole process of quantum imaging, though that's been going on for quite some time, it's still in its infancy in regarding to the general public. They don't even know really
Right.
what it means. And the naivety of what people will go and do is go and Google straight away. This is it. Quantum imaging. Can we get it out of a photograph if I take it? And it'll come up. Oh no, no, you need a specialized quantum camera and
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
quadrupes and this that, and the other. Yeah, because you've got to consider AI is controlled by data which is inputted. You know that, Alexei, and it's coming from a source anyway. But the source isn't up to date. What is being used here is a process of extraction. It's an extraction process from the quantum imaging world aspect. And that's what people kind of get a bit confused of. Oh, you got to maybe using a quantum camera. What they don't realize is every day they to go out. How many people take their cell phones out and take a photograph of millions all day long? Quantum data is being caught and they don't
Exactly.
realize it. And it's in all the things we see on television. It's everywhere. Film. I started with a 10-second piece of video as a demonstration because I wanted to use my videos and my photographs, because there's a control mechanism of them being taken and control passed
Mhm.
over to hidden world. There it was, and that was just the beginning to digest the fact that it doesn't matter. Stephen could have said to me when we first met, go and take a photograph of your truck, go and take a photograph of your bedroom, it doesn't matter. It didn't matter where I
Matter.
was taking the photograph. I didn't. I thought it was, oh, right, well, I'll pick somewhere in my garden where I've seen a UAP in the sky. Unbeknownst to me, it didn't matter, but as time goes on, you realize that the whole world around us and how we're perceiving it's a very, very clever mechanism that's being it is manufactured, absolutely manufactured, but
Yes.
how
Yes.
and by what we do not know.
Well, I think a lot of people have a hard time with that more exists beyond our awareness, right? They think, oh, we're so advanced, we're the human body, we've evolved to detect light and we understand the speed of light. Well, you've literally evolved to detect five different senses in an infinite ocean of the entire universe. And not only that, but you evolved to detect what's important for survival. And if something doesn't really interact with we haven't evolved to detect it. Even if we do have the senses to be able to. By the age of 5, if you're taught not to think about something, you're not going to think about it.
Right.
And so not only have our senses been limited, but so have our, you could say, freedom of mind. They are also limited by the cultures we're born into. And so if now let's just say you're born into a culture where this information is already understood, maybe more people are going to be able to see these things, just like you're saying with the voice phenomenon.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
interesting. What the one question that's coming to mind, and maybe this is an experiment you can do in the future. Are you familiar with the person? I believe they were weighing people as they were passing away, as they were on their deathbed,
Oh,
and
yeah. I
they
mean,
were trying to
the
weigh how much the
hypothesis of
soul.
the 21-gram situation. Yes.
Correct. Now, so you're the way that this is somewhat being described, it's almost like you're seeing lost souls, potentially spirits from other dimensions are in these photos and they're following this pathway back to source. Have you been able to capture, have you been able to go to hospitals and use this technology?
I,
I
I,
haven't. I haven't personally. Have you, Stephen?
no, I have not gone to a hospital, but I've had people send me hospital photos, and it's all connected. It sounds cliche, but everything's connected.
I would imagine
there,
it would be. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's no um, it's again, I hate to use the word sausage stuffing, but it's like casings, like these tubular casings going into one side, coming out the other side of the brain. Sometimes they'll go into the stomach, and you'll see these energy flows. It's not always full of horror, but predominantly horror is a part of it. But there's also a lot of these beautiful rainbow energies that are happening, and we
Yeah,
have
sure.
done some death stuff. Um, I can't really go into
Yeah.
it, but there is something there
It
that
is
that
it is very
happens.
interesting that we do see. I mean, I've had some things sent to me over the years and in regarding people when they pass and things like that.
Hmm.
In regarding the 21 gram debate, it hasn't, as far as I'm aware, been absolutely confirmed as yet.
No, 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 I don't think so. That's why I was
However,
wondering. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, however, there has been a number of experiments carried out over the years in regarding the departing of one's, you might say, soul. Um, as many people seem that they're interchangeable, the words spirit and soul. We don't. We do see them as two completely different. Well, these three: the body, the soul, the spirit, completely different. However, none of which, except for the body, has a weight capacity, as we know. But what we do know is that an incredible diminishing in the electrical field around the brain and the body at the time, and a lingering, interesting consciousness. You know, if you might say this is the point of passing away, but the
Right.
conscious does catch up. It's not all happening at the same time. That's what we do know in the scientific realms of regarding what you might refer to as disease experiments. You know, decision experiments. But it is interesting when you start to look at the imaging because it applies to everything, and it applies to even people when we pass away and what's actually happening and what's going on and you know, it's every feasible thing that you might experience in life from being born, you know, to passing. It's all consistent throughout reality. You
Very cool. And so you said there's well, so I went on the website, I looked at it. You said that on the website it says you've done a lot of work at Blind Frog Ranch. Are you able to talk about any of that type of work or go into any details?
Yeah, yeah, I can talk about it. Um, when season 6 was coming out, Dwayne had told me right before he passed, I can't talk about anything that transpired in season 6. They filmed me here in France for it. Uh, but that's already cleared out now, so I'm fairly certain I can answer any questions you have. If I don't feel comfortable, I'll tell you, let me check with Warner Brothers.
know.
Right.
What would you
I guess
like
for
to
the
know,
sake,
Alexei?
well, sorry, go ahead, say that again.
What what would you like to know?
Well, I was just curious. I mean, what type of investigation were you doing? And I know you don't like using the word portals. I like how Steve Mera uses electron diffusion region. I think that's a better word to use, maybe.
Yeah,
Some
I
people
hate the
might
word
agree with
Right.
it more.
portal.
Yeah. Did you like I guess what did they task you to do? And then what did you find? You know? Hi, everybody. I want to take a second today to talk to you about our sponsor, Shogun Farms. Their innovation and sustainability to the max. What they do is they get invasive wild boar species from across Florida and turn it into a USDA approved protein packed meat with all kinds of different cuts, flavors, juices. Mmm, it's absolutely fantastic. So check them out, shogunfarms.com. Thanks.
When we were there in season 3, it was all about this Montezuma's gold, and we found precious metal signatures deep in the mountain, and we found a conduit, a pathway, a void. What happens in quantum imaging? Sometimes you'll get a hit that's something that you recognize and know. Uh, Most of the times you don't. It's indirect things like resonances setting up inside of a tunnel. It'll produce more like shock diamonds in a jet exhaust or rocket exhaust, and then you know you've got a tunnel going there. And gold puts off its own electron cloud. It's a beautiful kind of purple, pink, bluish color palette, almost like a fog. It Gold is very unusual in that I forget what on the
You like the energy
uh,
signatures, yeah?
yeah, the energies, the
Mm.
ground state, and then it kicks up and all. It's got relativistic speeds going on inside the electrons just sitting there,
Correct.
gold.
Yep.
So that's what we were tasked with. Um, Unfortunately, we we found all this other stuff going on there that was
So,
just
so that's what I was just curious. So maybe as far as when you guys were first testing the instrumentation, you had brought pure gold and you were able to use it on gold and get a signature. And then you were able
we
to find that signature again.
we had our own gold calibrations that we did that we
Yep.
already knew basically what the gold electron cloud produces. Plus, it's known it gold to the human eye looks yellow, but in reality, it's got a blue, ultraviolet, purple. I didn't know this. I just kept getting this strange fog, beautiful, looked like a unicorn frappuccino from Starbucks.
Yeah.
And then later we found out, well, that's in the quantum world, that's what the true colors that are coming off of that. And so that was our task, and we ran it. And Dwayne had some stuff from the CIA, some ionic bursts
Mm.
somehow in his past and associates he had with the CIA. They had done a flyover and had some targets, some what he calls ionic bursts coming out of the ground. I didn't know any of this. He was blind testing me, and he sent me the imagery to run, and so I ran it, and I hit every single one of those targets. And so that's what freaked him out, and he got a hold of Warner Brothers and said, "Hey, you need to get this guy on here." So, to the story arc had already started, and so it was this Montezuma's Gold and some other things. So we focused on that, but when I got there, a whole nother story unfolded
Yeah.
that was suppressed. It wasn't ready, and that was, kept in the vault. Now, in these later seasons where they filmed me here, uh, they told me to go ahead and let all that out now. And I specifically asked them, "You sure you want to do this? Have y'all talked to the execs in New York?" And they said, "Yes, you're cleared, Mr. Leeah. Your handcuffs are off now." So I let it rip right here. They filmed me on the computer, so I can't speak to that because technically it hasn't been shown over here in France yet. I think there's a
Yeah,
seven
it'll
week
be
delay
a
or
delay.
something. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. But worth the watch. Very interesting.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
But
you can clearly see the practical applications of this, though. I mean,
yeah,
if we just want to look at the positives of this,
right,
utilizing for diagnosing people, that has already been proven tested. We know that works.
right, right,
And it also coincides with scans and information from hospitals to back that up, which I personally got myself. Secondly, they are practical applications of finding minerals, precious materials, metals, which is incredible for today's technologies regarding people always looking for, you know, where's the next big thing? Lithium car batteries are not going to last forever. There's a shortage of lithium going to be over the next 10 years. And not just that, you can apply astrophotography. We can discover whole new aspects of the universe around us just with those layers of quantum imaging. So, you know, people really do need to start taking advantage of it. Really, it is incredible, and we can use it now also in the parapsychological,
Yeah.
astrophysical science of things as well, and anomalous phenomena.
Yeah.
So do you really think that if people were to see all the images and everything you've seen, that it would be catastrophic disclosure? Is that what you believe? Is
Yes.
that what you think?
Yeah. Yes, it would. It would be a problem.
Hmm.
The the ones that we're able to mitigate, I hate to use the word filter, but there are certain they're always there. They're everywhere. And sometimes it actually, believe it or not, becomes frustrating because when you're dealing with a mining company trying to find manganese nodules on the bottom of the ocean floor, and they want to know exactly what they're made of, they're not interested in craniomaxillofacial amalgamates. So
No.
sometimes they're so thick, I have to find another frequency or bandwidth that kind of mitigates them. And it in the very beginning, season 3, I was told to blur that stuff out, and I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'd be no better than the Pentagon. But I found ways, just like with sound amplifiers, you can filter out bass and treble. Uh, so there's ways to, just
Yeah.
like in medical scanning, there's a consortium here in Berlin that wants to use us for non-invasive medical scanning. Imagine somebody gets a headache in the jungles of Vietnam. The X-ray machine is, hours away, and like Steve said, uh, pretty much everyone has a cell phone. That's a medical scanning
Mhm.
device. That's a quantum
Exactly.
mechanical
It is.
device,
Just
and
didn't
just
realize. Yeah. I
just
mean,
take a picture.
what's interesting is that there are so many people now that I'm aware of personally that are aware of this technology, that have seen it demonstrated and are on board with this. We are on a track with a juggernaut. If it's not through Hidden World, it's through everybody else who knows about this software and this process to some degree
Right.
throughout throughout the think tanks that we were involved in. And I have to admit, it's incredible that so many people have come together about this and want to support this, which is amazing because we are, like I say, on a track with this. It's one way or the other. We are going to have to deal with this at some stage. It's absolutely inevitable at some point. At this moment in time, we can certainly sit back and say, okay, well, we can leverage a little bit as to the shock and awe factor that applies to some of this information, because we've got to. It's a point of educating people, Alexei, introducing something to someone, getting them to understand the aspects of how we're trying to deliver that information in layman's terms and where we're going, where's it heading, and the practical applications. Because, like I said, there's 1,001 things that this is good to use. It's incredible technology, but it also reveals things behind the curtain of the Wizard of Oz, in a sense of speaking.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. It's endless. It's endless, and um, I can't tell you how many times I've been told by PhDs that some of them were kind to me, some of them made fun of me, but there were certain ones, like at MIT, that said, "Son, you have to remember what you're doing completely annihilates everything we've been taught. It disrupts everything." And we're human beings. We have mortgages, we have children in school. Um, I never knew that just going into it. I was a farmer getting off the tractor and a hat in hand, help me, how am I doing this? And
Yeah.
I had to learn PhDs. I had to take time off and just study them. And I realized none of them have time for anything. The ones that gave me time have bills and they have tenure, and no one's going to step out. No one. But it's all closeted. And I told Steve, I feel like everybody's mistress. They use me when they need me
Yeah.
and keep me in the closet. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't mean to be vulgar, but that's how I felt for 12 years. And finally, that is starting to change. And we found I was going to tell you, Alexei, when I see stuff on my screen, I'm constantly checking myself for any confirmation bias, experimenter's effect, all those things, pareidoia, blah, 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 compression artifacts. I try to be patient with people that tell me that stuff, but we already know all that. So if we say something, it's already been through that. It's like boring. I hate to
I
quote
mean,
Elon Musk, but
yeah, we're
it's
over strict with
boring.
ourselves, aren't we? Really, we really
So
do.
I go to established physics to find any supporting, correlating, and they're there. They are there. And this past year, right here in France, Dr.
Beatrice,
Norma
is it?
Sanchez,
Oh, yes.
Dr. Norma Sanchez, uh, I think she won the Nobel Prize, or she's from her university. It's there in Paris, I believe.
Yes.
She's finally come out and stated there is quantum information captured in any photograph. And I was like, yes, because that's for 12 years I've heard the information's just not there, son. It's not there. There's not a camera or a satellite in existence on Earth that can capture what you're capturing. And some of them would make fun of me, and I'd listen to them. And then a lot of times I'd still have the dirt from the fields off of me, and I can get kind of rough with people. I have violence in my past, unfortunately, and I said, "Look, buddy," and I'll just let it rip. I'll tell them it's not the damn camera. It's not. It's the data. Data's conserved. It's passing through,
Exactly.
especially time domain. You know when you see something like, for example, these amalgamates. I've seen them poke their heads out, look around, poke back in. They'll duck dive, go into another module. It's freaky. I've seen them look at each other. You can tell their pupils are tracking. Whoever's taking the camera, this fella right here, I know their pupils, they're tracked right on him. And so we did some satellite work too, and he's a target. You know, he's got a global footprint, so he's a major target. We
Yeah.
we do this for paranormal researchers that have a big footprint on the Earth, and sure enough, they have gravitational
Well, yeah.
lensing
Yeah.
going on, time domain
You,
things, lens steering,
you do
frame dragging.
certainly catch the eye. Yeah, that's
That's what
right.
I was about to say. So when you were talking about the gold earlier, and you were talking about how it has relativistic effects, potentially, I'm just throwing this out there, you're able to see the relativistic effects of the gold, and it's coming across some type of cloud surrounding the atom. That's the same thing you were seeing with the Tic Tac investigation, where you saw some type of
Yes.
cloud around it that determines some type of space-time distortion.
Right. It fractures. It's like a lighthouse lens.
Right.
The Teller Penrose effect. It'll start fracturing the light, and and it looks like somebody has the lighthouse lens bars, those thick glass prismatic things,
Hmm.
and it's actually magnifying the data in behind it. It's fascinating. It's beautiful, actually.
So for me, working in this field I've got into for the last 42 years now, I thought the parameters of our research had hit the wall. Waiting on new equipment, to show us things we already knew what was there. Like a mobile video camera that will show hotspots in radiation. Yes, they can cost thousands of pounds. Can we get all of them yet? But we know they exist. We never expect to come across something we didn't know existed, which has thrown us upside down, to be honest with you, regarding our research, because we didn't expect this. And we certainly would not expect interaction to take place. And being involved in this subject for 42 years, Alexei, I've been a perfect candidate, really, for Stephen and his team,
Yeah.
because, I suppose you do catch the eye and the interest from phenomena. I'm still an experiencer since I have been since I was 7. And isn't it interesting when you have an experience and I can be told to go back and take a photograph of that location where I had that experience only the day or two before, because there might be visual residues there in the quantum imaging, and it's there and I can see it, is just
Well,
remarkable
that's
for me.
really interesting because we were talking the other day about how you would go back into the field. I think maybe our first conversation almost 2 years ago, and you were talking about your time dilation. You call them time displacement detectors,
Time displacement,
um,
yes.
and how you could go to the location of the phenomenon maybe 2 to 3 days. What you're talking about here is years, not necessarily 2 to 3 days, but you're talking about years and years later.
Yeah, well,
So that's
yeah,
next level, right?
Right.
that's it really is. And it's incredible to be able to have that data there, hardline data
Yeah.
to back up an experiential phenomenon. Because it's
Now,
usually
how would
experiential is not often evidential, but now it can be.
well, a lot of people when they consider the quantum this energies and all that kind of stuff. We're talking about in the fifth dimension. We're talking about the past and the future and how they're overlapping to create the now moment. Just now, you were talking about being able to observe things that happened in the past. How would you be able to, or can you distinguish between whether the object you're seeing is from the past or from the future?
We have
Mm, mm.
resolved. Steve, can I
Yeah.
can I go into
Yes.
this?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
We
Yeah. Absolutely.
I don't mean to make you my patent attorney,
No. That's okay. That's
or
fine.
Joseph. Joseph will tear me a new asshole. He but I lean on Steve because of his experience, and plus he's had run-ins with militaries and all, so he knows when to shut me up. But to answer your question, Alexei, again, nothing matters. That's what's so weird about this. Nothing matters. People say, well, I didn't think to get my camera. It doesn't matter, ma'am. Just wherever you had this happen, take a picture, or if you can, a 5-second video, empty your head, whip it out real quick, take it before it gives them time to cloak or shapeshift, and send it to me. And sure enough, they're always there, and they're like, "Oh my God, that's what attacked me. It's still there." Yes, ma'am. It doesn't matter. We have resolved things in the past in frames that shouldn't be there, and forwards down it,
Yeah. In
both
fact,
sides of the arrow of time.
it's true. We've just come full circle from an incident that took place for me when I was assaulted by a poltergeist in 1996, which has left a permanent injury to myself in a particular area of the body, which has been now confirmed only a few weeks ago about the injury and what it has done, which I got confirmation from the hospital to back up the data that was obtained on the quantum imaging, which has come back all the way from the result of the poltergeist injury. It took place in 1996, where I had the photographs which were run through quantum imaging, which revealed what the phenomenon had done. And it was quite remarkable that we can carry these injuries. It's probably the longest length of time compared to any normal injury is what you might refer to as a quantum related injury from the phenomena and what it can actually do to the physical body. That has been resolved only recently, and that's since from 1996 to 2026. So we're talking quite some time.
That's fascinating. I saw that one. You spoke about that in detail, I believe, in a show you did like maybe a week ago or 2 weeks ago. You were talking about that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
hmm.
This is Gardner's house, right?
yeah. It's even other things in the house. Being an experiencer, it's always handy to know now
Right,
that I
right,
don't have to capture the moment. If I can, I will do, but I don't have to capture the moment. It can happen, and I can still capture that moment afterwards. You
I
know,
need to
and
take a photo of my piano for you guys.
yeah, yeah. Steve, can I
Yeah,
speak to what we found in
yes,
your
for
bag?
sure.
please do.
Yeah.
There's these things that we call toroidal beams. We, when we first started seeing them, I didn't know what I had because Steve has mentioned the faces. and they're usually like sand dollars in geometric embeds. Not always, but typically they're of a geometric, their I orbitals are geometric. And we've seen their I orbitals daisy chained with each other. They're usually like in these rows, and it's going to sound crazy, but like hula hoops, connecting all
So
their
like, yeah, in a spin.
I orbitals as if they've got tokamaks going on inside their skulls. Now remember, it's always their faces. It's never their heads, the side, the back. It's just face, never body. It doesn't matter what the high strangeness is, Bigfoot, apparitions, orbs, ghosts, UFOs, it's all the same. At its baseline, it's like a yellow slime mold construct, modular, with these embedded sentient, we call them craniomaxillofacial amalgamates. They're usually fused together like this amalgam. It's really bizarre. And so we started seeing some of these faces that look like a moon face, like an apple core. Okay. And I was like, what is that? And then I noticed on either side of the apple core, as if somebody took a big blob of magnifying glass on my screen and put it on either side. And I've done work with Princeton Plasma Lab, Dr. Cowley, Dr. Cowley and Dr. Abrahami over there. They had problems with these plasmoids showing up in their tokamak. And so we did some quantum imaging for them. It was just under review. And they have trouble with what's called ELM, edge localized mode. When you see pictures of a tokamak and you see those ropes of plasma that look real pretty, that's not pretty to a scientist because it wipes out the walls of the tokamak. And so that's what we were concentrating on, was those edge localized modes. Well, I started seeing that in the sky. We had a agent that worked for us. I can't mention the agency, but I'm allowed to say she was with DOD. She took this picture of this thing up in the sky, and they sent it to me, and this came under the military type work we were doing at the time. And that's when I saw this apple core, like somebody had eaten an apple, left the core, and I saw that characteristic gravitational lensing. And when I started doing the run, wow, it was what we term toroidal being. It's like a kingpin that anchors it, and orbiting it are these lesser faces. And we started seeing, going back, saying, well, I remember seeing another apple core. And sure enough, they were all the way back years. We're just blind to it. And he had one in his back in '96, and it's still there. And it's an anchored kingpin, and they spin up into near relativistic speeds, and they do damage. And this is what was in the Tic Tac. You asked about the Tic Tac. It was the same thing, and it puckered up, and it boom, it flooded that jet sensor. So they have control. We can tell which direction they're spinning. It's Doppler shifted. The side coming towards the camera will be blue shifted. The side going away will be red shifted. His were pretty much equalized, so they're not chomping on him, but they're there. They're embedded, and they knew right where to go. When he heard that heavy breathing behind him and got hit and thrown off Mrs. Gardner's bed, they went right for the most vulnerable part of his spine, where the spine is rigid and then turns flexible. That's where most people go paralyzed. that toroidal beam quantum locked there, right there,
Mm.
and he
Well,
could have been
and
a
yeah.
quad. He could have
Well, I
been
mean,
a quad.
you've got to consider the energy. I mean, you talk about the tic tac, you talk about the energy what's required for what its maneuverabilities are.
Right.
You know, I'm a big guy, and it took me off the bed, across the room, and on top of a dressing table, and it was a physical punch, but it was also like an electric shock repellent. You know, at the same time. But if you just look at the energy sources involved here, you know, which one was, you know, might be associated with Tic Tac, but the other one is focused to a location on my back. I wasn't aware that, you know, power injuries could outlast any normal physical injuries, you know, and I'm still suffering that today, really, with that. But
Yeah.
it's, you know, you learn things, but it's part and parcel of, you know, walking in there. You know, you've got to put your gloves on when you go to battle sometimes. And unfortunately, that's the situation.
Well,
Yeah.
and that's reminding me of the Philip experiment again, bringing that back around. And then, Steve, you did the phenomenon experiment or phenomenon project. I forget what it was
Yes.
called.
Yes.
Um, and th that had to do with, seance, meditation, creating a poltergeist or creating some type of a ghost using free will and intent. Do you have any type of quantum imaging data associated to those types of experiments?
Well, yes, we do. I mean, in fact, I did. I have actually. I can share that with you. I can send this over to you, Alexei. I joined those experiments when we also were reached to a point of NHI communication. That was the whole point. That was our target area. It took us 2 years to reach the point of NHI communication. You can go the fast route, but you have to employ ritualistic practices, and I don't really want to go down that road because you do need a heavy amount of protocols when you do this. It's not the best way to go about it. So otherwise, it's the 2 year process. Eventually, we did reach that, and we had manifestation phenomena taking place, visual manifestation, and the cameras are not run by human agencies. So the idea is not to have an individual responsible for pressing the camera to take the photograph because they can be manipulated. So we keep it away from any cognitive, judgmental things or limitations that might take place because its phenomenon is induced. They take random photographs, and it would talk photographs during the manifestation process. Those manifestations I've taken over and taken over to Stephen and his team, and they've looked at that and drawn out the quantum imaging out, showing out of the manifestation, the photograph of the manifestation at the time. It's absolutely fascinating. Just to look at the manifestation, it looks to be something that's trying to generate a body, an arm, fingers, and so on and so forth. You can kind of make those out. But once you put that through quantum imaging, it starts to bring out what's in there with it.
Right.
And of course, you got the cranial maxillofacial amalgamates, and the coloring energies of it was incredible. So yes, absolutely, yeah, we've certainly. I mean, we've had the option now, which we never would have done. I mean, I've 42 years sat on photographs and video footage that we would never have actually put over to quantum imaging because we didn't know about its existence and its application to assist. But now we've got huge amounts of data that could go over and look at.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, it's going to get to a point where it's just going to provide us what we already now know. And that is it's going to have all the, you know, the amalgamates in there. It's going to have toroidal phenomena. It's even just because you know it's strange. Even inanimate objects like your vehicle, because my vehicle has gone to so many locations with me regarding anomalistic phenomena, and I'm talking where being on site on a location the day after a craft landed on that location, that very location, you know, and periodically doing things like this with the vehicle became tagged with a toroidal. And
Yeah.
even that, even just a simple photograph of a vehicle showed that I had actually been tagged as well. So you know, it's like that sort of thing. It connects onto other things what you know, you're utilizing.
I was just looking for a pen. I wanted to
Unlocking.
make a note so I don't forget. If I could, or sorry, Stephen, were you going to say something?
It's quantum locking. Look it up. It's fascinating. You'll see them take a hockey puck. They have to cool it down, and they'll put it along superconducting magnets.
Yes. Yep.
And however they tilt it, it stays. Uh, that seems to be what's at play when these things decide to lock onto you. And
And
they locked onto his spine right at the most vulnerable part.
that's almost the perfect lead into the question that I was actually about to ask you. So Steve, I know you've done work with apports and that they act as somewhat of an anchor or a beacon to let the phenomenon know. So do you think that these apports have this type of toroidal, I'm just going to call it electron diffusion region, that allows them to the manifestation to happen? Um,
Well, first off, the quantum apports, I call them quantum apports because they're coming through walls and ceilings, and sometimes they get from point A to B. They're either traversing with unnatural trajectories, or they've actually manifest from one location to the other, or swapped out. Is the process of it's quantum tunneling. There's exactly the same process that can create two different forms of the wave. One gets stuck at the point of physicality, the other one passes through, and hence we know within the quantum world that quantum tunneling exists, and the phenomena utilizes all these wonderful toys that we never thought existed. It is the physics. It needs to add to the physics we've got. And it doesn't necessarily mean we got to throw out classical physics. That's always going to be there, but we got to build on top of it with the new types of physics that are involved. This quantum physics. When you're talking about apports, there are quantum anchors. Yes, it doesn't matter where where it took place. Or when it took place. What does matter is that it's the location is tied to the deliverance of phenomena. So by that anchor being moved to a different location, the path temporarily follows the anchor, as opposed from the location. The anchor is the important thing. So we realise that we can take photographs of the apports, which we have. I mean, presented some of them to Stephen, his team, and the mugs, for example. One of the mugs was a quantum apport. And yes, and ran, and we got the same sort of thing we'd expect to get back from that. I mean, if it was the first photograph we'd sent, it would have been quite shocking. We would have thought it might be actually something to do with the apport, but no, we realised that the quantum imaging is going to reveal those sort of things anyway. But it is interesting that everything's falling under these new methods in physics that we've got to get our heads around to start to understand what we might refer to as paranormal mechanics. It's the paraphysics. It's the ticking mechanism. And this is why we can really, to be honest, without saying much, piss them off, because we know their mechanism and we know how to upset the apple cart now by, oh, you've just dropped an apport in that location. I'm going to take it straight out. Didn't work because you're going to walk away, think deliverable of phenomena to that location because you've left a quantum anchor there, but it's not. It's not in their house. It's in my lockup, and I've got the only key.
Yeah.
Surprising, when I go in there, things are moved around. Well, I couldn't go in there. I'm the only key holder to the lockup. I'm not going to keep them at home when they're active. And it's strange that the phenomenon is tracking them, disturbing that environment
Yeah.
of where I took
Yeah.
them, while they're getting a few nights' peace of rest until it realizes, and then it starts to shift. So we upset the apple cart because we're starting to mess about with the mechanism a little bit.
Yeah.
Interesting. So with the technology, how many distinct layers do you think you've uncovered? I mean, are there infinite layers, or is it a distinct number of layers? Does the
It's
equation stop
infinite.
working at a certain point?
It's infinite, Alexei. Inside a finite photograph or video frame is infinite information. There's no end to it. If you're
Mm.
familiar with the Mandelbrot set, do you know what that
Yes.
is?
Yes,
Okay.
sir. Yep.
Recursive geometry is the best way to explain it. It's just the deeper you go, the more there is. When you see a shadow man, let's say I run a shadow man, the Shadow Man is actually made of hundreds of amalgamates. Well, then you start looking, you zooming in, and this certain amalgamate, his eye is really the mouth of someone else behind him. It's almost like looking at a hologram, an endless hologram, and there's no bottom to it. I can't find a bottom to it, and
Not
I've
as
been at
yet.
it
I
for
totally understand
years.
that. The term I like to use is the magic square. Have you ever heard of those magic squares?
I've heard Magic Square, but I'm not familiar with it. But I've
It
heard of it.
it's a really simple concept where you have, let's say, a square, and let's just say that's 1 pixel, right? Well, you can
Hmm.
break that square into 4 pixels. It can be broken into 16 pixels, and you can continue to break up a square more and more and more, right? To where that one square, which is balanced, because on the outside it looks like a certain value, but inside
Right.
that value is created by a whole bunch of different fractals, essentially. It's the same, in my opinion,
Fractals.
it's the same concept.
Yeah, yeah. And it's the same as I have to reverse engineer a lot of the my own work because there was no literature for this, and I finally quit going to PhDs trying to ask them what does this mean because they didn't know, and just started digging in myself. And I studied Benoit Mandelbrot, and he said if it hadn't have been for the invention of the computer, he never would have discovered what he did. It took the computer. And a lot of people mistake that I can just see a photograph and x-ray it with my eyes. I had this one lady think I was like a superpower. I said, no, no, I have to get it on a computer to be able to. Pixels have depth. They have endless data. People that don't realize that, again, inside the finite is infinite information. There's no end to it. You can't find a bottom to it. Nothing can be measured. To quote the whole Mandelbrot set, you think you can measure a coastline. The closer you get, it just gets more and more and more and more, and that's what we find. And the
I
thing
was in a
is
show.
that they're
I
all
was in a
different.
show. Yeah.
They're all different. It's not the same. You may be looking at
Yeah,
some
it's
of
not
them look like
repetitive.
spider
Yeah.
monkeys, and and then when you zoom in, it's a actress from the or actor from the 70s,
Yeah.
Patrick Wayne. Then it'll be SpongeBob, and then it'll be the puppy dog, and
Yeah.
then this geometric shape that doesn't make sense. It's like another analog for you to look up, Alexei, is the Bose-Einstein condensate. That really freaks physicists out. Under certain conditions, particles no longer know who they are, where they belong.
No.
They lose all identity. It's what it's like. Quantum imaging. I
That's really
sometimes
interesting.
have to get off of it and just go feel a tree
Yeah.
or drink some coffee to know that I'm not lost in La La Land.
Yeah.
Uh, so I ended up, I'm also kind of like a lifetime experiencer as well. I ended up writing a series of books based off of telepathic communications or something like that. It's a really long story. Point being is I, in quotes, have a patent pending interdimensional telescope, but it works completely different. But the
Okay.
idea behind it is that each one of our conscious harmonics, or each conscious modality, is essentially tuned to a different information matrix within that fifth dimensional structure that we've kind of been discussing. And that by creating a tunnel, essentially of warp space-time that matches either by basically from alpha to beta is a certain rotation and a certain expansion or compression. From beta to
Right.
fast gamma is a certain rotation or expansion or compression. By actually physically warping space-time, you could just use an everyday camera and look into another dimension.
Right.
Is the idea behind the interdimensional telescope. But I like what you're doing because it's a lot more cost effective. Because I can't really build a giant tunnel that's warping space-time 25 feet, or sorry,
Yeah.
25 miles long, kind of thing, like.
Right. Right. That's what makes it so beautiful. And me and Steve don't have to hide behind the proprietary um, trade secret, we're allowed to let out A through M. And I've taught some people at MUFON how to extract their own data because that's science. If you can't replicate it, if it's
Yeah,
exclusive to
exactly.
then it's not
Yep.
Got to
science.
be
So
replicatable. Mm.
that was
That was one
critical.
question I had. So you do have other people able to replicate what you're doing because I know that would be the biggest pushback from any type of scientific community or anyone looking at this is, can anyone else do this? Has anyone else done this?
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, there is a phenomenon known as the catalyst phenomena, which means that an individual can sometimes achieve wondrous things. But what the mistaking on the data is that he's a key part of it.
Yep.
And without the person with his fingers on the button or managing the equipment, then you can't rule out that he's part of the situation. So if you
Well,
remove him, you don't have the replication. Of course, yeah. Well, the good thing is that this is replicatable, and that's what you're absolutely right. That's what science wants. It's what people, when it comes to this type of data, don't want to see. It isn't the fact that we've just got Stephen Leeah, who's one of the quantum imaging analysts, and he's a catalyst and he's got the fingers on the button, and it's him somehow not knowingly associated with that because there are other people. So that kind of disappears straight out the window. I do know this because I have dealt with catalysts, some of the best in the world, and they are unique at doing what they do. But if you remove them and give the equipment to somebody else, it can't be done. It can't be replicated. They are part and parcel of that mechanism. But in this case, it seems that other people can do exactly the same thing. So Stephen's made it, he made sure that other people can actually do this, which is a great way to demonstrate the fact that it's not
well,
so.
and also to speak on the credibility. I mean, I know the people from Blind Frog Ranch, like I mentioned, and they wouldn't be reaching out to you if there wasn't something to it, right? You wouldn't be
Right.
working
Right.
with To the Stars Academy if there wasn't something to it.
Correct.
Um, and with the Tic
Correct.
Tac incident, right? So,
Right. Right.
Yeah,
I,
that's
I can tell you this much. I was on a Zoom with them, or it was some kind of thing, and there were some military reps and all, and so I showed the Tic Tac, and one of them, I can't mention any names, but it was from Lockheed Martin. He stopped me and he said, "Stephen, do you realize that you're resolving computational fluid dynamics?" Because I was doing time domain work. And I said, "Well, yeah, I get made fun of a lot because people tell me, why is your stuff all wavy? Looks like a lava lamp, Q Jefferson Airplane, White Rabbit."
yeah.
It really, when you look at it, it's mesmerizing. And he said, "Well, no." He said, "What you're doing is you're hitting the quantum fields. You're resolving quantum fields on the fly." And he said, "This is impossible. It would take a supercomputer weeks to compile just a few seconds of what you're doing on the fly, minutes." And I was doing it on my daughter's Intel NUC computer, no bigger than a cigarette pack. So it really, you should have seen all these heavy hitters' jaws drop when I'm showing them the Tic Tac. It was something I'll never forget. And I remember him saying it would take a supercomputer the size of your barn to do what you're doing on an Intel NUC. So that's the beauty of this is I can take half of that. My patent attorney said I can take people A through M, throw them a bone, let them do it themselves, so that way they know there's no funny business, or they know it's not just some kind of power on me. It can live beyond me. And then we reserve the other N through Z. There are 5 people on the earth that I've trained in person that know A through Z. It's like the formula for Coke. If something happens to me, there's 5 others that
Yes.
can carry on.
Yeah.
well, some would say that was the problem with, for example, John Searle's technology is that he never wanted to patent it. And people would say, "Where's the answer?" And he would say, "It's right here in my head." And now no one has the answer that he
Right,
had.
right. That's what my patent attorney told me. He said at some point we have to get this out because it'll die with you, and then
Exactly.
there's nothing to
Yeah.
leave your kids. I think of the inventor of Starlight, that special fireproof stuff. He wouldn't tell anybody about it, and it died with him, and they still can't figure it out. It was some kind of special stuff he made that was absolutely fireproof. Fire had no power against it, and he took it with him to the grave. So
I've heard that the Starlight, I think they thought it was like an aerogel, but it was a little bit different.
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
remember.
yeah. It was
Yeah.
something. Uh-huh.
Yeah, they
So
never achieved it, have they yet? Not yet, anyway.
it's exciting. It's very dark, but it's also very beautiful. It has a lot of potential. It's a beautiful thing. Matter of fact, Alexei, if you'd like, if I have your permission, I'll screen record you real quick, about 5 seconds, if that's okay.
Yep.
And what I'll do, I can't, I'm not going to do it right now as we're doing, but hold on just a second. You sure you want
Well,
to see this?
I was gonna do a little thing here. Maybe it ends up working. We'll see. If you're recording,
Okay.
you know.
Hold on just a second. Now, if you would stay still, just normal, and all I need is 5 seconds. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Got it.
You got me
What I'll
nervous
do,
now.
what what I'll do, Alexei, is I'll extract these frames later, and I'll do a complete time domain quantum run for you, and you're gonna see your reality, your baseline reality, and that's what me and Steve are trying to explain to you, is that once you see this and you realize it's real, you just start to realize nothing matters. It's everywhere. It's our baseline, and we are actually the fake stuff. This other
Yeah.
is the real. And
Mm.
that's supported by Leonard Susskind and some of these other physicists. They're finding out that the universe isn't real, time's not real, the speed of light's not real, nothing's real. I've watched things out at the edge of the observable universe, billions of light years away, move across my screen in 2 or 3 frames. That's impossible when you think of the scale.
Yeah.
It's jumping billions of light years in 2 or 3 frames from a live view from a telescope, from a deep field object.
No,
Uh,
and I get that. That's what's really interesting.
we're
And
in
that's
some
why I
kind of
think,
trick. We're in some
well, our
kind of
4D,
trick.
our perception of space-time itself, is emergent. This is what science says. It's emergent and it's based off of our
Right,
inertial reference frame. And we're
Yeah.
limited
right.
to the human senses. We
Yep,
can barely
absolutely.
see anything. And that's why I think what you're describing is just, it's not simple, and it's not simple to fully understand, but it's motion through the fifth dimension is the easiest way to describe it. And so that's what we're able to capture with, potentially that's what you're capturing. You're seeing motion through the fifth dimension coming off as clouds in essence, space-time distortions within our layer.
Right.
Yeah.
Amalgamates as big as galaxies moving, their facial expressions moving. I mean, just opening their mouth would take hundreds of millions of light years, and it just doesn't make sense. Steve was actually the one. We had kept seeing this years ago, and I would tell him, "Hey, I'm a child from. I grew up in the '70s and the '80s, so Marathon Bar was a big thing for us. The crosshatch caramel bar. I I would say, hey, I keep seeing the Marathon Bar in the sky. We didn't know what it was, and I said, you know what? It looks like the lattice, like some kind of lattice. I keep seeing it. I would see UFOs that wobble are actually having to navigate that crosshatch pattern. And when I met Steve and began to show him this work, he sent me a video about the E8 lattice. He said, Stephen, I see signs of the E8 in your work. And that's when we were able to, because of Steve, more fine tune it of what type of lattice it is. It's not what I thought, like a grape trellis lattice. It's actually this multi-dimensional E8
Layered.
lattice,
Yeah.
foam
Yeah.
with multi dimensions.
And
And
what's interesting is that, when you start to realize how UAP are utilized the lattice for maneuverability at high speed, high traversity,
right,
and you're thinking, well, how did he do it? Then you realize, oh, it's following the path of the lattice. It's quite incredible, really, when
Well,
you
I've
start
heard
to.
like, for
amazing.
example, I think I heard Lou Elizondo once talk about it almost looks like a skipping stone going through the,
Right, right, right.
instead of
And,
folding a piece of paper in half, you've accordioned the piece of paper.
Yeah,
right. And
yeah,
I would tell people, put yourself inside Tron. It's like Tron. I don't know how else to bring a quantum subject down to earth for people, but we're living in like Tron. I said, get yourself inside the liquid crystals. We're swimming around with a bunch of decapitated, disembodied heads with their faces peeled off, and intestines, and everything's flowing, and
yeah.
there's these
It's just,
toroidal beams, and we're part of it. The human body just disappears. I mean, it doesn't matter. You become part of this whole thing that we're in, and it's supported by physics. I don't know. Steve was instrumental in helping me understand that it's this block, like a block universe, and this foam is inside. And go look. I tell people, look as hard as you want, believe all you want that what you're seeing is real. Get your head right up against the TV screen and just believe that those horses are real. They're not. They're pixels on a screen. I've had them argue with me. No, I saw a ship with windows, and I said, ma'am, I'm trying to show you the reality. That's what they wanted you to see. What they didn't want you to see is the man behind the curtain, and it's a bunch of chopped off heads. I said, look, here's your UFO with your windows, and that's what the photo showed. But when I just ran it a little bit, I didn't have to go deep. The windows were made out of them. They were forming to make it look like a window, a square window, literally. Like
yeah.
starlings, it's like murmurations or
It
schools of
is. Yeah,
fish.
same method. Yes,
Yeah. Steve,
absolutely.
you've seen all this.
Yeah,
Add
yeah,
on, brother.
yeah. Absolutely seen it all. I mean, when I took I sent Steve a video of an experiment that was taking place in a cemetery, and we caught two apparitions walking across the camera view. When I sent that to Stephen and he ran it, it came back, and I swear to God, it looked like a scene taken out the Matrix movie. How
Yeah.
it interacted with the crystalline E8 lattice. It was incredible.
Yeah.
And what you could see. And it just goes to show that the phenomena we're experiencing is not so much that it's punched into our reality and we're seeing something which is not from our reality in our reality. What we are seeing is our reality expose itself. That's what we're seeing, which is fascinating because you start to see the elements of a mechanism. Someone, somehow, when Stephen talks about catastrophic disclosure, it's the fact that you've got to be able to digest the fact that somehow someone has created this.
Right.
That's the big thing. What or how is unknown.
You need to disclose at this point, Alexei, I am a born again Christian. I am a licensed minister on sabbatical from the ministry. I'm very flawed. I'm full of flaws. Uh, this actually came to me as a kid by prophecy. I was in church right there by Johnson Space Center. this little old crippled, handicapped, challenged um, elder man had me stand up in church, and he said, "You there, stand up." And I was scared to death. And he just started giving me a word from the Lord that there would come a day where I would see all things as God sees them, that nothing would be withheld from my sight. Now, I was a kid fresh out of Dayton High School, and I was terrified. Actually, I didn't understand it, and uh, that nothing would be withheld from my sight. And then when it was over, I sat down. I thought, Lord, I'm going to fall over dead.
Hmm.
I didn't know what just happened to me. Decades later, I'm farming, just trying to take care of my family. And I said a simple prayer out in the field, me and my son. God help me figure out this crop. We wanted to have the best crop in Houston for grass. And my son had a little toy airplane. We duct taped the camera, and we sent it up. And I was going to try to get I was interested in quantum mechanics in for some reason. I started getting a hunger for it. And I knew there was a reaction center that the St. Augustine cultivar takes photons and efficiently spreads it out and does its thing. So I was going to try to find where the best parts of my field were, the fertilizer and all. And when we landed and pulled that information and took it to the barn, all of a sudden it was like that movie John Travolta where he got that uh, pipeline of
Oh,
information.
yes.
What was
Phenomenon.
that called?
Phenomenon.
Yeah,
It was,
phenomenon.
yeah,
Yep.
I just started understanding the
like a
quantum mechanics
download
role
experience. Yes.
in the plant, and I started being able to extract that information. And the problem was I started seeing under the crop, the main Houston natural gas pipeline. And that's when I started getting scared. And
Mm.
I remember I was shaking. And I used to speak at NASA when I was youth pastor there. Our church was right by Johnson Space Center. And so I went to their imagery department. I said, "Hey, I'm seeing under my farm. I'm seeing I shouldn't be seeing this." And their imagery department took a look at all my work, and that's when they said, "Mr. Leeah, this is above our pay grade. You need to get to the Department of Defense immediately." And I was put in touch with them, and the rest is history. So um,
Yeah.
that's
That's
it's all real.
mm,
It's there's no end to it. There's
no. It's certainly been a fascinating journey, and we're all still learning still at the end of the day.
Mhm.
But the data is the data, and it's growing and growing exponentially every day, which is a huge archive of information which is now being shared amongst a number of individuals. But I can send you some visuals over, Alexei, for some of the things we have discussed tonight, for sure, so you
Yep.
can maybe utilize some of these.
Definitely.
my my
If you guys are
instructions
open to,
are, Alexei, I need to say one more thing, is I'm just to deliver the data. It's up to the world to decide what it means to them. I have my own thoughts. Like Steve said, someone constructed this and someone did this to whatever these things are. That's not my job. I'm just to deliver the data and then let the world decide what it means
Hmm.
to them.
Yeah.
Uh,
well, it's really interesting you mentioned the Mandelbrot sets. I think that a lot of people can relate to that and the
right.
scale of things. And when you're considering human perception, again, we're limited to the speed of light inward, essentially, towards the atomic level, the quantum level, where you literally have the Planck length. And we're also limited to the expansion of the universe, which is outward, one time the speed. So basically, we're limited to this tiny sliver of space-time itself.
Right.
And it seems as if you're able to somehow, and I'm speaking very loosely, but capture information from other layers that are beyond, in a physical sense, potentially moving faster than the speed of light. But I'm not sure if that's the right way to think about it. It's more
Yeah.
related to, say, a gravitational field or the space-time metric would probably be the
Space
easier way
time
to put
measure.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yes.
that's really interesting stuff. I was just thinking, I had the honor of giving Steve Sasson a stainless steel digital camera. He's the inventor of the digital camera, and maybe I can make some type of quantum camera I can send your way or something like that in the future.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be
yes.
interesting. Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. That will be good. Yeah, well, it's been a pleasure. I mean, it's the idea, whole idea about this, Alexei, is just educating the public. You know, something to bite on, you can understand. We try and put things
Definitely.
in layman terms as best we possibly can. But like everybody wants to see sort of visuals, and that's the whole point about this, is that there's the data for everyone to have a look at, to go through. It's replicatable and it's continuing as we talk now. It's still growing. So at some point, people are going to hit this at some point in their future. If it's not their future, it's the children's future. But it's moving very fast at this moment in time. Quantum mechanics, quantum physics, quantum imaging, all
Well,
those
I
areas
remember the
are
first
on
time I used a camera, it
super
wasn't
steroids,
digital,
aren't they? Yeah, they're all moving
right? Like
very.
the first cameras weren't digital, like the ones that I used. Very first camera I ever used was very, film. So within the last 30 years, digital cameras now exist on our cell phones. I know you're still using the same type of camera, but you're using a different algorithm or something of that nature to make these things pop up. It wouldn't be hard for me to believe that within 10 years, everyone's taking quantum photos,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
The way
yeah.
the
and actually
technology
looking
growth
at
pattern
them.
is, absolutely, of course, it should. Yeah, if you look
Yeah.
at just the technological curve at the moment regarding what children have in their hands at 10 years of age now is
Yeah.
remarkable. You know, it was unthinkable years ago. Just where we are now, the unthinkable area. You know, so
Well,
humanity, as we grow and learn, we're going to discover lots of new things, lots of new things.
that's what's super
Alexei,
fascinating too is
your
go ahead.
film camera is a quantum mechanical device also.
Yeah,
Exactly, but
all
it
that.
doesn't have the right software installed to be used properly.
Yeah,
I
well,
need to run.
neither does a digital camera. It's the silver halide crystal, that little defect. There is magic that goes on in that quantum well that happens when those photons hit that.
Right.
So it's doing the quantum dance. A digital camera is a rock,
Mm.
sand, and it's the same thing. Both. That's why I tell people take a 1800s tintype. It doesn't matter. But when you're dealing with a PhD or an optics, they are so trained on that they can't get out of it. But that's the whole beauty of this is we're giving the power to the people, whether it's film or digital. As long as you can get it on a computer and be able to adjust those pixels, you can pull out your own data. Yeah.
In the beginning of this conversation, I was, okay, it's the pixels, it's this, it's that, it's this. Now I'm more confused than ever.
Well,
Um,
that
That's it.
that the catastrophic disclosure part of it is you give this power to the people. Everyone's going around seeing everything, and we haven't even talked about the sun or the moon yet. And you could get some very bad results from that, where you've heard of the mother that gets rid of her family to save them from the Antichrist, and
right.
there's all sorts of
Yeah,
Pandora's box.
with the data comes a lot of responsibility in the mind of the observer. The thing is, though, is that the problem is the observable mind. You know, the problem is how people individually react to what they see.
Right.
One person might see something completely different. The problem is being human means that we have emotional tie to visual stimuli. That's the problem. We're not computers. We don't just look at data. You know, we emotionalize from it. The problem with that with people is that you'll get different emotions from different people, and some people they can build a whole empire on an emotion. You know, and this is the
Right.
problem with this data. So it has to be done very in a certain way, and released in a certain fashion that is a manageable situation without it just like a bomb drop, in a sense of speaking. And it can be done.
Understood.
And this is the start. This is the learning curve, the start of this implication. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, very cool. I'll be able to share the photos at least, and that'll give people a taste. Hopefully, within 5, 10 years, we can start looking at the sun and the moon in more detail.
Yeah,
No, I know
possibly.
it's very challenging, but I don't think people really understand that. I mean, I don't even fully understand, and I think I understand that we're just a point of attention existing within an infinite ocean of information. Um,
Right, right,
That's it.
yeah,
Exactly.
right.
Exactly.
Put
Yeah.
yourself inside your screen, and that's what your reality is. You're
Yeah.
swimming in a bunch of crystals. One clip I use is from an old Twilight Zone episode called Five Characters in Search of an Exit. Are you familiar with that,
I am
Alexei?
not. No.
Okay, look it up when we close out. It's on YouTube, and what it is it's five characters. I won't spoil it for you, but they realize they're in a construct, and there must be something else. And when they leave the construct, is the catastrophic disclosure.